Hello, my name is James Bailey. I am the co-owner of Brass Tacks Innovations and the lead consultant for our teacher retention services. At Brass Tacks, we believe that the fundamental skill that leaders need to have today is the ability to understand and solve challenging problems because we exist in a very dynamic educational landscape. Teacher retention is one of these large problems, and what differentiates us from our competitors is we don't lead with solution first. We help you really try to come in and figure out how to solve the exact problem that is causing your teacher retention issue. As we talk about teacher retention, we believe this is a fundamental issue that could, if solved, solve many of the achievement problems and many of the other problems that we see across the educational landscape. Unfortunately, this is a wicked problem, meaning that there are not simple answers to this. There are numerous stakeholders, numerous elements that are causing this problem. And unfortunately, many of the solutions that we are seeing today are very narrow and limited in their intent. For instance, while we believe that teacher pay and salary is a huge issue and needs to continually be raised, that by itself will not solve the working condition issues that many of our teachers face that are causing the excessive stress and burnout today. The larger problem that we really see is that over the last 30 or 40 years, we have created an unintentional turnover system. A system, as you know, is a group of interacting elements that drives some result. And if you look at your own school or district and the results you're getting in turnover, something in the system is causing that to happen. While we know that certainly teachers move for a lot of reasons, many of them turn over to different schools or leave the profession entirely for very different reasons. This problem stems from things like increased accountability, increased workload, pressure to perform, pressure on teacher performance, pressure to increase the achievement of all students. All of these things aggregated together over time have created an imbalance in the work of the teachers, leading again to this excessive stress and burnout. Because we exist in systems, again, systems are naturally getting results they're designed for. While nobody initially set out to design a system that would drive teachers away, that's exactly the world that we're living in right now. Unfortunately, this turnover system has been normalized and accepted. We accept that we're going to turn over X amount of teachers every year from our state, from our districts, from our region, from our schools. But this doesn't have to be accepted anymore. We know a lot about this problem, and we know that there are ways to actually solve it. The primary thing that you can do as a leader is to focus on those things that you can control. Just like the Rubik's Cube, there are numerous configurations that when moved over time will actually solve the problem. And you too can actually figure out the puzzle of this system of teacher retention. You can fix what you can control, but we also believe that as a primary problem to solve, you can allocate your efforts to creating an intentional retention system to overcome this turnover. So what happens if we don't act now? Well, we know that there will be continued costs and unnecessary costs. It costs between $9,000 and $17,000 a year to replace each teacher that leaves your system. And that doesn't include the amount of time to recruit, to call people, to set up the interviews, to do the interviewing, which again is a cost. We also see that there's more long-term teacher burnout, meaning those teachers who do stay are given more and more duties. They have more mentoring, they have more instructional duties, they have more duties that cause them to be overly stressed and burn out because they're having to step in for those teachers who leave. It's also very difficult when you're turning over between 10, 20, 30% of your staff every year to have a positive school culture and to develop those and maintain it. You're actually starting from scratch every year. The other thing we know from certain research is that for every teacher that you lose and replace, you may be losing between 2 to 3 years of, or 2 to 3 years, 2 to 3 months of student achievement. Let me say that again. For every teacher that you replace, you're losing 2 to 3 months of achievement per student every single year. Now, why that happens is because, again, teachers you bring into the system are usually young and they have to learn how to teach, they have to learn the curriculum, they have to learn how to deal with your students and your community, and that's a very difficult job. Over time, then, the last sort of impact is that with this sort of declining or stagnating achievement, the long-term viability of the U.S. economy is in question. Right now, we've kind of hit a stagnation point with achievement coming back from COVID. We know there's a lot of catch up. But again, if we're having to replace teachers every year, that actually doesn't help in the long run. So the way that we work with you is we let your beliefs drive our process. Again, we do not come in and impose a particular solution. What we really do is start from the top with a good consultation and discovery of what your needs really are, how we want to work together. That manifests itself in a needs assessment. We have tools and diagnostics that we can use with you to understand what's causing this turnover system. We use all that data to actually develop a plan, and then we execute that quickly with you and provide the ongoing support you need to solve these problems. More specifically, what that looks like is initially we'll help you with the free cost analysis. What does this look like as far as your financial costs, your cultural costs, your student achievement costs? We then provide needs assessments that is given to primarily your teaching staff that can help us identify what's their level of stress, what's their intent to stay or to leave, what are the things that are causing them to want to stay or want to leave. We prioritize that with you, and then we use a tool called a PDSA cycle or inquiry cycle that is part of an improvement cycle mentality. We co-design those together, help you execute those, and see what we can learn from actually executing those cycles together. All of this work is done on this model. We come in with a particular model that is empirically based, that we know has been shown to actually help understand what teachers need, what causes them to leave, and what causes them to stay. We start with the idea of job demands, which are those things that cost energy, and that if there are too many of them can actually impair the health of our teachers. We have the second element, which are resources. Those are the things that help teachers do their work better, which can actually create motivation. And in the center, which we think is the most important thing, is what we call the emotional path, which is a primary function of school leaders, but all people in a school building or district, which is how do we learn to support the social emotional needs of one another at a basic, intermediate, and advanced level. All of that, when done well and done together, can create more teacher well-being, which is an indicator that teachers will stay and become more satisfied and long-term impact the learning of their students. So, in conclusion, what our job really is to help you understand that we need to close the knowing and doing gap. We know a lot about this problem. We know what the research says. We know those indicators that teachers say are necessary for them to stay. So we have two choices. We can continue to acknowledge that we have an unintentional teacher turnover system and just accept it as is, or most importantly, and our sort of moral mission is to help you create an intentional teacher retention system, one that makes teachers feel valued, one that allows them to do a doable and workable job every day, but that will keep them in place for a long time so that we can impact the needs of our students over time. So in conclusion, again, we are Brass Tacks Innovations. If you are interested in our services, please give us an email at info@brasstacksinnovations.com, where we will schedule a meeting with you for a free 15-minute consultation. We also have a QR code on the screen here. You can scan that for your free retention playbook that will allow you a little more in-depth information on how we do this. We thank you for your time, and we thank you for your service for all of our students.